Hi, friend. It's your inner child calling. And they want churros. A new toy. And a new adventure. Or maybe 5. With the bestest besties on Earth. Find your moment at Walt Disney World Resort.
When it comes to your health and well-being, the right care can change everything. That's why Cleveland Clinic has been elevating world-class patient care for over a century. From the latest in heart, neurology, and cancer care to advanced diagnostics and beyond, Cleveland Clinic is here for every care in the world. Explore a wide variety of health and wellness info by visiting clevelandclinic.org today.
Our iHeartRadio Music Awards are coming back Monday, March 17th on Fox, starring Bad Bunny,
Glorilla,
Kenny Chesney,
Money Long,
Nelly,
your host,
iHeartRadio,
LL Cool J.
Are you guys ready to have some fun tonight?
Plus iHeart Innovator Award recipient, Lady Gaga.
iHeart Icon Award recipient, Mariah Carey.
And iHeart Breakthrough Award recipient, Gracie Abrams.
Watch live on Fox, Monday, March 17th.
At 8/7 Central.
What's up, y'all? I'm AJ Andrews, pro softball player, sports analyst, and the first woman to win a Rawlings Gold Glove. On my new podcast, Dropping Diamonds, we dive headfirst into the world of softball by sharing powerful stories, insights, and conversations that inspire and empower. It's time to drop bombs and diamonds. Dropping Diamonds with AJ Andrews is an Athletes Unlimited Softball League production in partnership with iHeart Women's Sports and Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment. Listen to Dropping Diamonds with AJ Andrews starting March 17th on the iHeart Radio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Jon Stewart is back at The Daily Show, and he's bringing his signature wit and insight straight to your ears with The Daily Show Ears Edition podcast. Dive into Jon's unique take on the biggest topics in politics, entertainment, sports, and more. Joined by the sharp voices of the show's correspondents and contributors. And with extended interviews and exclusive weekly headline roundups, this podcast gives you content you won't find anywhere else. Ready to laugh and stay informed? Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. Today is a full-on Mercury Retrograde episode. If you've listened to this podcast before, you've heard me say, bring it on, Mercury Retrograde. I don't know if it's masochistic or what, but I like Mercury Retrograde because I know I'm getting an upgrade. Yes, all the delays and miscommunications and frustrations are annoying, but I've gotten to where I embrace them because I know deep down there's a reprogramming happening. Mercury rules the mind, our communication, how we gather and share information, how we cognize information, process it. But this retrograde is massive, and there are multiple things going on astrologically that basically take it to another level. We've got eclipse season. The link to that is in the show notes. There's a podcast on eclipse season, so that's happening. Venus is retrograde, and there's a long, in-depth podcast on that where I talk a little bit about eclipse season and Mercury retrograde, and Venus is retrograding basically over the same degrees Mercury is, and then we have Mercury retrograde. So there's a lot of layered energy happening in a very compact period of time. March and April of 2025 are really compressing us and asking us to show up and receive, to do the work, make it sacred, trust the process. And during Mercury retrograde, sometimes it's hard to trust the process because you feel like you're in a spin cycle or nothing feels like it gets completed with ease and clarity. It's reworking, rethinking, revising. And of course, there can be IT glitches, miscommunications, delays, misunderstandings, misinterpretations. That's par for the course. The better you can step back, go with the flow, the greater acceleration you will feel in your consciousness through this. So let's go through the key dates first, and then I'm going to break it down. Mercury retrogrades on March 15th at 2:46 a.m. Eastern Time. So very early in the morning or late at night, depending on where you are. Late at night on the 14th, depending on where you are. So March 15th, 2:46 a.m., 9 degrees of Aries. The next key date that you want to be aware of is March 29th, when Mercury retrogrades back into Pisces. So from March 15th to March 29th, Mercury will be retrograding in Aries and have that flavor. I'm going to break that down. From March 29th through April 7th, Mercury will be retrograding in Pisces. On the 29th of March, Mercury retrogrades and enters Pisces at 10:18 p.m. Eastern Time. So when you wake up on the 30th, essentially, it will be retrograde through April 7th, when it stations direct at 26 degrees Pisces at 7:07 a.m. Eastern Time. So March 15th, Mercury stations retrograde, 9 degrees Aries. March 29th, Mercury backs into Pisces. April 7th, Mercury stationed direct at 26 degrees Pisces. Those are 3 key dates that you want to be aware of. The energy will shift once Mercury moves into Pisces. There are 2 different flavors with 2 different sets of attributes and things that you can focus on, recognize, and level up through. I will walk through those. 2 more dates I want to add in that are important. On March 22nd, the Sun and Venus will conjunct. Remember, Venus is retrograde, and that conjunction will happen at 2 degrees of Aries. So Mercury will be retrograde, Venus is retrograde, but Venus is going backwards in the retrograde station and conjuncts the Sun at 2 degrees of Aries. Then on March 24th, Mercury, moving retrograde at 4 degrees of Aries, will conjunct the Sun. Why are these 2 dates important in the retrograde cycle? Anytime Mercury and Venus are retrograde, because they're inner planets, they move faster, they track more in line with the Sun, essentially. In their retrograde phase, they create something called a cazimi, which is a conjunction with the Sun. And once the planet crosses back over the Sun, moving retrograde, usually some things start to click. Even though we're in a retrograde phase where you're revising, reviewing, reorganizing, whatever it may be, it's like there's a little more traction or a little more information or clarity. So just know March 22nd and March 24th are power days in this, where you may get a flash of insight or an idea or something that hasn't been quite coming together yet, or you've been frustrated around. And if it's around Venus, relationships, values, money and finances, how you relate to other people, something may surface or come to a head where it gets to be confronted, or you understand it better and it clicks for you. As it relates to Mercury retrograde and the Sun coming together, it's the mind. Something clicks mentally in your communication, wherever that is transiting in your chart, and there's like an aha or a little bit better insight and direction forward. So know that those are power dates. All right. With Mercury retrograde, one thing I want to say astronomically about Mercury retrograde is what happens is the planets do these loop-de-loops. And if you ever look astronomically at the orbits of each of the planets, whether it's Mercury or Neptune or Pluto, it's like sacred geometry. Search it sometime. Look at the orbits of the planets, and they almost make these beautiful flower designs, especially Venus. Venus is quite beautiful in its design. Imagine that. Venus, love, beauty. And Mercury, it's very interesting to look at their orbit. But when they go in their little loop-de-loop, The way astronomically that Mercury is, or Venus, or any planet retrograde, is in perspective to planet Earth, it appears as if it's moving backwards because it's in that loop-de-loop phase. So all of the energy and the vibration or the frequency field, the energetic force field and gravitational pull, energetic exchange between the Earth and that planet, it turns inward. So it's not about external movement, immediate gratification, momentum. It's more about an internal reprocessing around the attributes of any planet. So with Mercury, it is about our thinking mind. And Mercury will station retrograde at 9 degrees of Aries. In Aries, in general, Aries is a fire starter. It focuses on our individuality, our mighty I am, bold momentum, courage, fight, aggression, vitality, passion, impulsiveness, rash behavior, jumping to conclusions. There's so much beauty in that fiery momentum, and it's firing in the mind. So the mind can be working overtime with a lot of impulsive, compulsive thoughts and behaviors. Like, I need to do this. I need to get this reconciled or resolved right now. That may feel very intense and immense in your mind as Mercury stations and starts to move retrograde in Aries. Anything that you find yourself in consternation about that feels rash and harsh and immediate and like I have to say this, or I have to have this conversation, or why aren't these people doing this? That kind of like fighting energy with yourself and in your mind, and dialogues with other people in your head when they're not sitting there next to you. That is Mercury retrograde in Aries. When you feel that, recognize it, sense it, give yourself a little smile and be like, oh, there's that energy. Aha, I get it. I see what Amanda was referencing. Okay, let me take a breath and let me step back and really be the observer of the monkey mind and what is going on. It will be very helpful because you're reviewing, you're revising the information that you have gathered before you take action. So be mindful of impulsive communication, an increased tendency for heated words, reactive conversations, speaking before thinking. And it's a good time to rethink your actions. Aries is about action. So it's a good time to revisit past decisions that maybe you made in haste or were driven from some form of your ego or fear, where the motive was fear-based because it was, I'm not going to have what I need, or I'm going to lose what I have. That is a great place to revise your actions, more so in your journal, more so in your thought processes. Whoa, I jumped to conclusions there, and here's the fallout it cost. Or I didn't have all the information, and then I had to redo this. I had to revise it. It's also a really healthy time for conflict resolution. But when I say it's a healthy time for conflict resolution, I'm really implying that it's more about revising it in your head and your heart versus sitting down with somebody and having that conversation. To me, unless it is divinely orchestrated, organic, and necessary or absolutely necessary or imminent that I resolve conflict during Mercury retrograde, especially Mercury retrograde in Aries, I usually wait and allow the information to really be revealed to me. So when it is time to reapproach a subject or a project or something that has created discord or disharmony, I wait so my head is more aligned with my heart and I come at it from a place of peace and neutrality and a place of trust and acceptance, while also standing in my own truth. Because ultimately, Mercury retrograding in Aries is helping us to really speak our truth better and more holistically. And when I say holistically, what I am referring to in terms of your whole self, what you need, what feels ideal and true to you, and saying it in integrity, in your highest character or in the highest light. And sometimes that denotes not saying anything at all. So you may come through this retrograde phase with Mercury and Venus where it's like, maybe I don't even need to say anything. Maybe God and the spirit of the universe and my guides are divinely orchestrating a path forward for me. Maybe it is only time for me to listen. So there can be a lot of wisdom revealed during Mercury retrograde in both Aries and Pisces. Additionally, in Aries, it's a time of really recognizing our personal identity, individuality, and self-expression, and how maybe we've been limiting it or hiding it or overexpressing it. So there's a lot of encouragement around redefining your voice, your boundaries, your personal truth. It's also a great time, because it's going to create anything but what I'm about to say, is to practice patience. Because Mercury in Aries, period, is not patient. Mercury retrograde in Aries is going to be an internal battle that feels hasty and impatient and impulsive. So it's a wonderful time to practice patience and strategy. When challenges arise, be mindful of not pushing forward too quickly or in a reactive manner. This phase invites reflection before reaction. So it's creating an element of responding more wholly and truly. There are massive opportunities for growth with Mercury in Aries, practicing mindful communication around any misunderstandings and being flexible with yourself and other people. You know, if someone cuts you off in traffic, let's just use that as an arbitrary example. A lot of us are like, oh, why did they do that? I can't believe that. Aren't they paying attention? And we all do that. That's pretty human, right? And also it scares us a little bit. It frustrates us a little bit. But also we've done that to other people, knowingly or unknowingly. If we're in a mood and we're in a hurry or we're running late or we're just not paying attention to the road and spaced out or something's going on. So we've put yourself in someone else's shoes and say, I don't know what's going on with them. At least we're both safe. Let me give them a hall pass. It's a good time to revisit leadership strategies, your personal leadership, and even your personal aims and goals. I think this is a phenomenal time, especially in conjunction with eclipse season, to redefine and revise your intentions, your aims for 2025. I think we are being given a gift of revision to come from a place of deeper wisdom and clarity.
This is Jenny Garth from I Do Part 2. If you could lose 10.4 pounds in 1 month, would you try? With Future Health, you can. Future Health gives millions access to affordable weight loss meds for less than $3 a day. Find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes at tryfh.com.
Tryfh.com.
Results vary based on start weight and adherence to diet, exercise, and program goals. Data based on independent studies sponsored by Future Health. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion.
Our iHeartRadio Music Awards are coming back Monday, March 17th on Fox, starring Bad Bunny,
Glorilla,
Kenny Chesney,
Money Long,
Nelly,
your host,
iHeartRadio,
LL Cool J,
Are you guys ready to have some fun tonight?
plus iHeart Innovator Award recipient Lady Gaga,
iHeart Icon Award recipient Mariah Carey,
and iHeart Breakthrough Award recipient Gracie Abrams.
Watch live on Fox Monday, March 17th.
At 8/7 Central.
Snakes, zombies, public speaking. The list of fears is endless. But the real danger is in your hand when you're behind the wheel. Distracted driving is what's really scary and even deadly. Eyes forward, don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Dr. Joy here. You may know me from Therapy for Black Girls, where we're celebrating 400 episodes of the podcast. That's a whole lot of girl me too moments. For years, we've had deep, thoughtful, and inspiring conversations about Black women's mental health. And now we're celebrating this milestone in a big way. In this special episode, Peloton yogi Chelsea Jackson Roberts shares how yoga has taught her to stay grounded and present while balancing motherhood and self-care.
I can't control my partner. I can't control my child. I can't control anyone outside the way that I govern myself in this world.
And the celebration doesn't stop there. We'll continue this milestone with Dr. Lauren Mims, who joins me to discuss the powerful yet sometimes challenging transition from girlhood to womanhood for Black femmes. Together, we explore how we navigate this transformative journey with strength and grace.
Black girlhood is giggling, it's sisterhood, but it is also, I think, focusing on learning how to cope with really difficult things that are happening.
With insights like these, this 400th episode celebration is one for the books. Listen to Therapy for Black Girls on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Can you hear it? It's the whisper of two wolves inside you. One says, "You're not enough." The other says, "Keep going. You can do this." They're always talking. The one you listen to shapes your life. I'm Eric Zimmer, host of The One You Feed. On my podcast, we explore how to hear the voice that matters, the one that leads you to courage, wisdom, and love. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. Millions of listeners have fed their good wolf. Now it's your turn. Listen to The One You Feed on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Also, with Mercury retrograde, there's an opportunity to strengthen our ability to be assertive while also fostering an element of compassion in our interactions. And that's what I was referencing when I was saying this interconnection of the head and the heart, being able to stand up for yourself and to assert yourself and be in your power or empowerment, but do it from just a very true and compassionate and heart-centered place. We all know what that feels like when we've been frustrated around something and we can't quite put our finger on it or figure out how to resolve or reconcile it. And then all of a sudden, there is like a peace or an ease or a trust or an acceptance that happens through prayer and meditation and wise counsel. And it's like, oh, I'm okay. Oh, I can really share what I'm thinking and feeling and how this impacted me or what my behaviors might have caused or here are my needs, and feeling really true and authentic and safe when we communicate that. And it's amazing because usually things unfold more beautifully and divinely than we can humanly imagine. So focus on your inner voice, your inner courage, and pay attention to when self-doubt comes up. I think this right here might be the biggest Achilles during Mercury retrograde in Aries and through this eclipse season and Venus retrograde is massive self-doubt and then acting from the place of that doubt or insecurity. So I would, if I were you, I'd write out your insecurities. Like, what do you know that are your 2 or 3 biggest insecurities? And I don't care if it is your body, your intellect, your voice, like write it out. This is for you. Write out, what do you know that you have some insecurity around, and are you ready to heal that and create a greater sense of worth and value and wholeness? And that ties into Venus retrograde as well. It's an opportune time for discernment and conscious decision making. Here are a couple of journal prompts. If you have the 2025 Astro Numerology Guide, there's a lot more information and details around this Mercury retrograde phase and really great journal prompts, not only for Mercury retrograde, but the eclipses and Venus retrograde alike. But I'm going to give you a couple of journal prompts. Where in my life am I being called to pause before acting or speaking? Where can I practice some restraint in my voice and my communication? Here's another one. What situations trigger my impulsive reactions? And how can I cultivate more mindfulness in those moments? Those are a good couple of journal prompts. And maybe another one is, what bold ideas am I ready to refine before taking action? That one really resonates with me because I've been thinking a lot about ideas that I have and things that I know and want to put into motion. But because I know to ride the waves of energy that more will be revealed, I've been thinking about these bold ideas and initiatives I have, but I'm not pulling the trigger yet because I feel like I'm still in a fact-finding phase. And there's something kind of amazing with that because it forces me to be very present in the now and trust deeper and go along with divine timing versus creating everything on Amanda's timing. And usually Amanda's timing is fear-based. I'm afraid I'm not going to have, or I'm going to run out of time, or this is going to happen. I know that feeling and that consternation, and I've been setting that aside. And like I've shared in a couple of the episodes, surrender to the mystery. And that's a beautiful segue to Mercury retrograde in Pisces. Now, y'all, Mercury retrograde in Pisces is a whole different flavor than Mercury retrograde in Aries. Mercury retrograde in Pisces is more spiritual, emotional, and working with the subconscious and the collective. It's mystical. So it's not going to feel clear-cut, action-oriented, precise. While you're working it with Mercury in Aries, there's a lot of ping, 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 like precision coming through and immediacy and jabs and punches and ideas. It's firing and wiring that way. With Pisces, it's more fluid and dreamlike and creative and watery. And the greatest challenge with Mercury retrograde in Pisces has to do with the subconscious, because Mercury is about the conscious mind. Pisces rules the subconscious and our unconscious terrain. So it's bringing the subconscious into conscious awareness, and that can feel extremely uncomfortable. It can feel crazy-making, delusional, depressive, blurry, foggy, uncertain, lacking direction. Go with it and trust it. Remember I said Mercury will back into Pisces on March 29th and be retrograde in Pisces through April 7th. And then it will go direct after April 7th, and it's going to re-travel over the places it retrograded after March 7th. But there will be more data, more clarity, but it will feel a bit confusing, especially emotionally. So emotional confusion, which denotes heightened emotional sensitivity, foggy thinking, difficulty distinguishing intuition from illusion. I'm going to repeat that. Difficulty distinguishing intuition from illusion. Intuition is interesting here because with Mercury retrograde in Pisces, what you're most likely going to be cognizing or hearing is the subconscious. And so the subconscious may be saying things like, you're not enough. You need to move faster. You don't have enough money. You're never going to be able to do this. Or, this is so frustrating today. Like it may have a lot of heavy chatter. And that is not your intuition. That is the gift of what is running on auto program in your subconscious. So when you hear all of that, you get to say, that's the dialogue that I am running off of in the background. That's the hard drive that is being upgraded. Okay, I hear you. That's not true. I am worthy. I am clear. I am loving. I am capable. It's a really good time to not buy into that rhetoric, but recognize the rhetoric and dialogue that is coming up from the inside of you that is creating a limiting circumstance or limiting circumstances, a sense of hyper ego, old programming that you may be autonomically running on that you don't recognize. So as far as intuition goes, my adage or rule of thumb there would be to say to your higher self, hey soul, hey higher self, show me the next indicated step today. Give me the trust and the patience. Help me with this. And then when you see a synchronicity or you get a phone call from somebody you were thinking about, embrace those divine moments and synchronicities and then continue to go with the flow. But really be cognizant of the unconscious running the show and what auto program is running. Another theme or implication of Mercury retrograde in Pisces is experiencing creative blocks and then also creative breakthroughs. So it sounds a little paradoxical, but you may feel creatively blocked, or your vitality and creativity, your passion may feel really off kilter or low or out of whack. And then all of a sudden, boom, you get an insight. So when you get an inspired idea, write it down, make note of it so you don't forget it. But if you feel scattered, take a breath, recognize, oh, wow, something big is transitioning and transforming within me. And the only way through is through.
This is Jenny Garth from I Do Part 2. You could have lost 10 pounds already if you started 1 month ago. So are you ready to start today? Find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes at tryfh.com.
Tryfh.com.
Results vary based on start weight and adherence to diet, exercise, and program goals. Data based on independent study sponsored by Future Health. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion.
Our iHeartRadio Music Awards are coming back Monday, March 17th on Fox, starring Bad Bunny,
Glorilla,
Kenny Chesney,
Money Long,
Nelly,
your host,
iHeartRadio,
LL Cool J.
Are you guys ready to have some fun tonight?
Plus iHeart Innovator Award recipient Lady Gaga.
iHeart Icon Award recipient Mariah Carey.
And iHeart Breakthrough Award recipient Gracie Abrams.
Watch live on Fox Monday, March 17th.
At 8/7 Central.
Snakes, zombies, public speaking. The list of fears is endless. But the real danger is in your hand when you're behind the wheel. Distracted driving is what's really scary and even deadly. Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Dr. Joy here. You may know me from Therapy for Black Girls, where we're celebrating 400 episodes of the podcast. That's a whole lot of girl Me Too moments. For years, we've had deep, thoughtful, and inspiring conversations about Black women's mental health. And now we're celebrating this milestone in a big way. In this special episode, Peloton yogi Chelsea Jackson Roberts shares how yoga has taught her to stay grounded and present while balancing motherhood and self-care.
I can't control my partner. I can't control my child. I can't control anyone outside the way that I govern myself in this world.
And the celebration doesn't stop there. We'll continue this milestone with Dr. Lauren Mims, who joins me to discuss the powerful yet sometimes challenging transition from girlhood to womanhood for Black femmes. Together, we explore how we navigate this transformative journey with strength and grace.
Black girlhood is giggling, it's sisterhood, but it is also, I think, focusing on learning how to cope with really difficult things that are happening.
With insights like these, this 400th episode celebration is one for the books. Listen to Therapy for Black Girls on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Can you hear it? It's the whisper of two wolves inside you. One says, "You're not enough." The other says, "Keep going. You can do this." They're always talking. The one you listen to shapes your life. I'm Eric Zimmer, host of The One You Feed. On my podcast, we explore how to hear the voice that matters, the one that leads you to courage, wisdom, and love. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. Millions of listeners have fed their good wolf. Now it's your turn. Listen to The One You Feed on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Another thing that can really come to the surface is spiritual awakening, increased dreams, synchronicities, and big cosmic downloads. The deal with that, especially with Mercury in Pisces and Mercury retrograde in Pisces, is it's like you're gathering information, but your body, mind, and spirit are going to need some time to modulate and integrate the new language that's coming through. Think of this entire retrograde eclipse season, Venus retrograde, as new language is coming through, and you may not yet have the words or understanding or education and experience to interpret it yet. So the fogginess, it's like you can get just this download and insight, and it's so clear internally, but you wouldn't even know how to explain it to a friend or someone else. I had that happen multiple times this morning, and it was illuminating and enlightening, but it was like, what do I do with this information? I just smile. I just receive it and allow it to integrate into my cell's DNA cognition until it is time for me to communicate it where I understand it better. And usually as I start to comprehend it, it starts to show up in my external world through conversations, dialogues, people, synchronicities. So spiritual awakening, higher levels of consciousness is happening. And the Pisces phase of the Mercury retrograde and the Venus retrograde and eclipse season is really massively alchemical. Allow it to happen and know that through this, mid-April and onward, the language will start coming. So don't feel like you're missing the mark or you're losing your mind. Just let it ride and know that more will be revealed and you will have clarity around it as the months ahead progress. Emotional healing throughout Mercury retrograde in Pisces is huge. So old wounds and trauma, especially related to loss and grief or martyrdom, self-sacrifice, may surface or resurface. So anything that you are confronted with that brings up old pain, trauma, and suffering, an old storyline, sit with it, reflect on it, pray about it, meditate about it, get some wise counsel around it, some support, and know that it's almost like a last gasp of air for some of us in some old storylines, pains, and traumas, because we're ready for some new beginnings and new adventures, which I feel like we're going to see waves of, especially at the end of the month and onward, with Neptune entering Aries and then Saturn joining Neptune in Aries in May. So just remember, any miscommunications and interpretations, jumping to conclusions, passive-aggressive behaviors within yourself or with others, just let it ride and know that you will have a better understanding on the other side of this. Last but not least, with Mercury retrograde in Pisces, is massive challenges with boundaries. So when I say boundaries, with this energy, I mean energetic boundaries. There's a greater susceptibility to absorbing other people's energy, emotions, feelings. So you may be pulled into some confusing dynamics. It is a really healthy time to ground and pull your aura in and strengthen your aura, because you will be hypersensitive and feeling like on crack, for lack of better words. Your feelers, your antennas are like on steroids, right? So that's exhausting. So some self-care and grounding and getting out in nature and letting the sunlight hit your face and a good cold shower, whatever, a good night's sleep or 10, whatever that looks like to you, that self-care, energetic cleansing and clearing, I'm going to say do an Epsom salt cleanse. We'll link that in the show notes. That's one of my go-to tried and trues, is clearing my energy with Epsom salt. That is a wonderful practice anytime, but I think through this eclipse season and retrograde phase, that'll be very helpful. So the opportunities for growth with Mercury retrograde in Pisces are truly around cultivating mindfulness and grounding practices to stay centered. And I'll reference Pam Gregory, the astrologer that I love. She says, stay on your eagle's perch. I think that is the most lovely and appropriate theme. Am I on my eagle's perch? Am I rising above and stepping back and observing without getting caught up in all the drama and the minutia? And am I really, really trusting that there is something bigger, greater, and higher guiding me and supporting me through this phase? It's a wonderful time to revisit your spiritual practices or creative projects or therapeutic work. So rolling up your sleeves, I mentioned that in the March forecast. If there's a time to go to the spiritual gym, it's the next 6 weeks. Rolling up your sleeves, getting back to basics in your personal growth and work and spiritual practices, it will pay out in the months ahead. It's also a very healthy time to develop stronger emotional boundaries, to really be mindful of your energy. Are these my emotions or are these someone else's emotions? Being very mindful of emotional and energetic boundaries. Embracing stillness and quiet reflection in solitude will be very helpful. And whether you have 5 minutes in your morning or 2 hours in your evening, or between home and picking up a child at school, carve out the time to go within, to listen to your heart, to talk to your guides and your higher power. A couple of journal prompts around Mercury retrograde in Pisces would be things like, how can I create stronger energetic boundaries to establish healthier emotional well-being? Or what unconscious fears or limiting beliefs are coming to the surface for me to heal? What unconscious fears and limiting beliefs are confronting me right now that I am ready to heal? And also, how can I practice balancing my spiritual insights and downloads with grounded, practical action and patience, trust? Really think about the cultivation of patience and trust through this retrograde phase. I'm here for it. You're here for it. Remember that Mercury retrogrades on the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. It's very, very poignant. Mercury rules Virgo, and even though it's in Aries when it retrogrades, it's a power day, the 14th, 15th, because Mercury is basically standing still. So it's a great time to journal. And because it's a full moon eclipse, there's this element of stuff bubbling up to the surface that has outmoded its purpose, its meaningfulness. Something that might have been purposeful or meaningful in the past may be becoming extinct. And I think about that from the vantage point of coping mechanisms. Sometimes our coping mechanisms are developed as survival skills. You know, especially when we're young, we develop certain strategies and coping mechanisms based on our environment. And then 30 years later, 40 years later, we're grown up and we're still behaving from that point of awareness. And it's not true in our reality today. This is the time to draw those correlations and recognize what has outlived, outmoded, or served its purpose. And are you ready to rewrite the script? And you're the author alongside of the divine intelligence of the cosmos, of God, of the highest creator. So rewrite your story. What do you want it to look like going forward? And what needs to be reorganized, revised within your head, your heart, so you can truly live more meaningfully, happy, free, and inspired. Let's make this Mercury retrograde magnificent, and I'll see you on the other side, because that's where that's where the new awakening is happening. Be well, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to Soul Sessions. If you've got questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Email us, podcast@soulsessions.me. If you love this podcast and you want to hear more, make sure you're following it, liking and subscribing, and sharing it with other people. Send this energy out. Share it with other people. Remember, you can always get your dose of Soul Sessions. New episodes drop on Wednesdays. You can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok. It's @soulpathology, or check out soulpathology.com. I appreciate you and your light. Thanks for listening.
iHeartRadio Music Awards are coming back Monday, March 17th on Fox, starring Bad Bunny,
Glorilla,
Kenny Chesney,
Money Long,
Nelly,
your host,
iHeartRadio,
LL Cool J.
Are you guys ready to have some fun tonight?
Plus iHeart Innovator Award recipient Lady Gaga.
iHeart Icon Award recipient Mariah Carey.
And iHeart Breakthrough Award recipient Gracie Abrams.
Watch live on Fox Monday, March 17th.
At 8/7 Central.
What's up, y'all? I'm AJ Andrews, pro softball player, sports analyst, and the first woman to win a Rawlings Gold Glove. On my new podcast, Dropping Diamonds, we dive headfirst into the world of softball by sharing powerful stories, insights, and conversations that inspire and empower. It's time to drop bombs and diamonds. Dropping Diamonds with AJ Andrews is an Athletes Unlimited Softball League production in partnership with iHeart Women's Sports and Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment. Listen to Dropping Diamonds with AJ Andrews starting March 17th on the iHeart Radio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Jon Stewart is back at The Daily Show, and he's bringing his signature wit and insight straight to your ears with The Daily Show Ears Edition podcast. Dive into Jon's unique take on the biggest topics in politics, entertainment, sports, and more. Joined by the sharp voices of the show's correspondents and contributors. And with extended interviews and exclusive weekly headline roundups, this podcast gives you content you won't find anywhere else. Ready to laugh and stay informed? Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you hungry? Colleen Witt here, and Eating While Broke is back for season 4 every Thursday on the Black Effect Podcast Network. This season, we've got a legendary lineup serving up broke dishes and even better stories. On the menu, we have Tony Baker, Nick Cannon, Melissa Ford, October London, and Carrie Harper Howie turning Big Macs into big moves. Catch Eating While Broke every Thursday on the Black Effect Podcast Network, iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite shows. Come hungry for season 4.
What if you asked two different people the same set of questions? Even if the questions are the same, our experiences can lead us to drastically different answers. I'm Minnie Driver, and I set out to explore this idea in my podcast, and now Minnie Questions is returning for another season. We've asked an entirely new set of guests our 7 questions, including Jane Lynch, Delaney Rowe, and Cord Jefferson. Listen to Minnie Questions on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. 7 questions, limitless answers.